You're tuned in to RX Radio.
Welcome back to RX Radio, ladies and gentlemen. Myself, Jordan Junta here, with the most reliable, you're a host at this point, host and human on this earth, Eric Bugera. Thanks for being here, Eric.
Hello, friends.
Yeah. Before we dive into things, I don't have much to say about many things today, but I do want to say that we do have a class of the Prescript Level 1 coming up in September. So if that's something you're interested in and you want more information, go ahead over to the website, www.pre-script.com. Drop your email address down at the bottom of the homepage. Get on the newsletter or the mailing list. You will get our newsletter. And stay in the loop. Any information you want to know about the Level 1, any upcoming courses. We've been putting out a lot of free content, a free ebook in July. We've got a couple webinars coming up. So go ahead, drop your email, and you can know what we're up to. Aside from that, welcome back, Bugera. How are things?
Things are good. I have exactly enough power, both me and my laptop, for about 45 minutes to 1 hour, which is pretty indicative of where I am in life right now. All right. If you're watching like this is perfect. I'm like looking in 4D, Ultra HD, whatever the hell, and just seeing the eye things starting to happen, and we're not even there yet.
Ooh, I have no idea what that means. Like, are you on any substances that would cause this to happen?
No, I have severe, like, well, I shouldn't say severe. That's getting dramatic about it. I have allergy shiners, but it's also heavily influenced by the degree of fatigue I have overall. And we were just talking pre-recording, but like legit dad mode in T-3 or less weeks. So sleep is going to be hilarious. If you get to see me in any context, I'm going to limit how much rambling I can do on my own social media. Like, just it's been leashed just because of like the fatigue induced rants and bullshit that I don't want to get out there. But any calls I have committed to, any prescript commitments, things like that, I've said in every lab or anywhere that I've been, like, just wait, give me a month because I'll still be there. But this is just going to go further and further downhill. The amount of self-censoring and stream of consciousness are just going to invert, and you're going to get the best version or the worst version of me.
This is amazing because I feel like you're very put together. You're very professional on the internet. And I've been in scenarios with you in person, like hanging out after seminars, whatever it might be, where, you know, you come a little bit unleashed. I cannot wait to see you sleep deprived and with not a single fuck in sight and see that version of Eric Bugera and how he handles situations. Because I don't think you do things poorly in any respect. So I think you're going to do things well, but you're going to do things well with like an undertone of fuck off and rage. And I can't wait to see that version of you.
I'm like a judgmental, upset father that's just disappointed in everyone at all times as just a default setting.
Yeah.
Now make that a real, actual role that I will be playing in life.
Yeah.
So once I've truly assumed that and not just like faking it till I make it, it's going to get real fast. And it's always been there. You've seen the intrusive thoughts post seminar or mid workout, even just like, please, somebody give me horse blinders. Please keep me safe from all the other people that are currently surrounding me. But yeah, it's going to be one of those things where it's going to slip out, and eventually I'll just have to come to terms with the severe professionalism that I have that is constantly at odds with what I really want to actually say. At a certain point in time, they'll mesh.
I love that. And that's actually maybe a direction for anyone listening. We have no idea what we're going to talk about, but you've inspired me, as you always do, Bugera, is the idea of professionalism. I think that's a really interesting topic, and it's something I've actually had on my mind a lot lately, is professionalism in our industry, at least, is probably not what a lot of people think it is, right? Is, you know, there's people with face tattoos that do a very good job in our industry, and that's not the typical definition of professionalism, right? I think that professionalism in the space that we're in right now, it really comes down to, and I've thought about this a lot lately, it comes down to two things, is fucking showing up and being prepared. If you can do those things and you could do them well, and there's other like subsets of that, but like communication's a big one too, which I think you and I have talked about in detail on previous podcasts. But professionalism isn't like speaking very properly and having a clipboard and a collared shirt that's tucked into your khakis. It's not that. Like, it's professionalism isn't something that you can wear, or it's not something that you can really, I guess you can learn it, you can acquire it over time, but it's how you carry yourself and the value of the service that you provide. And I think that's a very subjective thing that doesn't necessarily have, um, it's not going to be something you can standardize, right? Like, look at Shallow. He's got a devil's face tattooed on the back of the skull. I think it's
Yeah.
hilarious. But he puts himself and he carries himself very professionally. He's, very well respected in our industry. And these are ideas of like growing up. There was like this model of professionalism that I feel like our generation's parents tried to push on us. And it has nothing to do with actually the way that you carry yourself, the way that you deliver your service. I think there's a lot of people that try and enact that old model of professionalism that don't really have their shit together, in the fact of like they're not prepared. They don't have their product offering buttoned up. They just kind of look the part. Maybe they have like a nice professional website, but their product is shit. So like, I know that was a little bit of an aside, but that being said, I think you're still going to carry yourself in a very professional way. And I think you can be very professional and still have face tattoos or say the word fuck or whatever it might be, wear a t-shirt and shorts and no shoes like I do every day. But it doesn't have anything to do with what you're wearing. It has more to do with what you're doing and the service that you're providing and you're offering. And I think that comes down to more just providing value and how much do you care? How passionate are you about the thing that you're doing? And I think people that really care and give a fuck, they're going to show up, they're going to be prepared, and they're going to deliver a very good product. And there's nothing more professional than that. Like, if you're late, if you're unprepared, and your product is shit, there's no way I'm giving you my money, ever.
Yeah, I think you run into that in life. And I mean, literally, you run into it like a brick wall when you're either inexperienced with what professionalism is for either specifically your vocation or just the broad sweeping statement of what you were talking about, being prepared. I would even lump in just generally it being a broad sweep of just respect for either the person you're servicing,
Yes.
the people that you're working with, anything like that. Having run into that wall of just completely being unprepared before you realize it immediately one time, and if you're with it even remotely, it'll tune you up real fast. It'll force you to improve your habits. It'll force you to. It's exactly what you stated. It's how you carry yourself. It's how you present yourself, not in necessarily the physical outward expression of I have face tattoos or I'm wearing a button-up polo shirt, but in just the way that you communicate with others, the way that you even stand in posture, the seriousness with which you present yourself in the context that you're in. And that's always been something that I've grappled with in terms of something that is there forever, but not contextualized versus something that is an in the moment, one-to-one intimate scenario. And I think you described it perfectly with you seeing me post seminar and seeing the seminar version, which is very, very close to the post seminar fatigued, but still sort of professional, upstanding citizen, but also intrusive thought version. But knowing that you can experience that sort of personality type in the context with which it actually has like some semblance of you've got the back conversation, kind of who I am, what is serious, what is a joke, what is nothing, anything like that. So what I struggle with is when some of those things start to seep out in a way that people can miscontextualize it. And that's where I usually, in any sort of outwardly public facing sort of social media post, website, especially in written, where it is very, very easy to take out of context and just run with it. That's where I still struggle with that kind of stuff. And I think it's a fair struggle considering like what you're up against in specifically our industry, where there are a lot, I'm not going to call them holes that you can fall in. You have to be kind of a giant piece of shit to fall in a lot of the holes that our industry has, aka harassment, being a creep, theft, like things of that nature. But still, just the ability to come to terms with you can have your personality, but also be viewed as professional. And it's not one or the other. It's making sure that the people you're interacting with understand who you are,
Mm-hmm.
and then also making sure that you treat everything you're involved in again, be it servicing people in terms of the clientele, be it interacting with coworkers, colleagues, or in this case, technically my boss, being able to interact with them with the utmost respect that they can feel resonating off of how you carry yourself.
Yeah. I think those are two really good guiding principles. And I think one of the big things too is that, especially in this industry, and maybe I should define that, what this industry is, because we just kind of say that because we're so entrenched in it, is that we are people who sell fitness or education around fitness on the internet, right? So our storefront is your Instagram feed, basically, right? So that's something that's relatively new. I think COVID really, I mean, it was there before COVID, definitely, but COVID really accelerated it. And I think a lot of coaches, we'll put in air quotes, got their start into this industry, in air quotes again, during COVID, because it was something that they were passionate about. People are passionate about training. Maybe they didn't have any experience in the training world, any business. And this is another aside. It's the fucking wild west of training, right? Like, you don't need any sort of credential to sell a spreadsheet on the internet. Just putting that out there, right? And there's a lot of people that are doing very well that maybe have no credential or no real experience in coaching, but they have that pretty website and all that stuff. But I mean, that's a little bit of an aside, is that getting back to that professionalism, is that respect is huge. It's in any aspect, just as a human. And it's something it's very intangible, but you can definitely tell when it's not there, right? If this person doesn't respect you as a person, you as a customer, if this person doesn't respect what they're doing, there's going to be a feeling there that maybe you can't vocalize it all the time, but you're going to understand that this person isn't serious about what they're doing. Like this, and you're always going to be able to sense that with someone that, what am I trying to say here? Is that there's levels to this, I guess, right? Is that people, maybe they can hide it from some people, but people that have an understanding of the industry and the space that they're in, they're going to see right through it. And then their customer base is going to be limited to everyone that has an understanding less than that. They can't really see through the guise of what they're doing. And there's definitely levels to this in the industry. And I think this is what you and I, or like the people that are in our position, this is where we find our frustrations, because we can see through it at almost any level at this point, probably any level at this point. And it's something that I struggle with, because there are people that are fooling a lot of people. And maybe you and I can see through that. Maybe a lot of people can't see through that. But the struggle for me is that, are they still doing good or are they doing harm? Right? And it's a lot of times it boils down to, in this industry, they're probably doing good in terms of they're probably helping people to some degree, to some way. Maybe they're ignorant in other ways and they could be maximizing other things. But I think that that's where there's a deviation. I had this conversation very recently of two names, and I'm going to put them out there because fuck it. Why not? And I think I follow one of these people on the internet, but I don't play into their bullshit. There's Squat U and there's Seedman, right? They're two names that come to mind that if you know what this industry is, you know those names. And the way that I think of this, and this is kind of getting off of professionalism, but it's kind of what I'd put the category around this is playing the game. Right? There is a game to be played with social media, and I think you play it. I definitely play it. You have to play it if you want to exist and be known in the space, right? I don't like posting on Instagram. It's not something I enjoy doing, but it's something I've accepted that in this day and age, you have to have a presence there. And these are two people that I think they play the game really fucking well. That's a different thing than me respecting them or what they do or how they do it, but they're winning the game, right? They have probably at this point at least hundreds of thousands, if not millions of followers. Whether it's good or bad, people are talking about what they're doing, right? And the thing about that is that's exactly what they want. The way these algorithms work are that it's not about spreading good information. It's about getting interactions, whether that's like people liking what you're doing or sharing it or commenting on it. Even if the comments are negative and people are sharing it and like talking shit on you, that's going to feed into this algorithm and more people are going to see it. And then things go viral and then they get all these followers. And then there's always going to be in that umbrella of followers that they get. Say you have 1 million followers and a solid 50%. Shallow has this quote. I don't know where he got it from or if it's actually his quote, but I love it. He says, the average person is an idiot and 50% of people are dumber than that. Right? So
I think it's Carlin.
Who's that?
I think it's Carlin.
I don't know who that is, but
like George Carlin. Put some respect on his name.
Tell me who this is. I don't know.
No,
I have no respect.
You fucked it now. Everybody in his DMs. Carry on.
All right. Hit me in the DM, George Carlin. I'm sorry. I respect you, George, because Eric respects you and I respect him. So, anyways, okay, we have 1 million followers. That 500,000 mark is an idiot, and half the people are dumber than that. Okay, very great statistics here, evidence-based podcast. But the idea here is that if 50% of those people can see through your bullshit, 50% cannot. Now you have an audience that looks up to you and is hearing your message of 500,000 people that think that you're spreading knowledgeable information, even if you're citing yourself in your articles. So that's the game right there in a nutshell. And the thing that people also need to understand with this, when you're looking at this from the outside in, is that these people have a motive. They're not just posting to get likes and to get views and things. They're selling you something, right? They're always selling something, right? And there's kind of deeper layers to this stuff that we could go into of like how SEO works, which you know about because you do this for us here at Prescript. But like the longer people are on your page, the more time they spend reading your captions or your views, or if they save your posts and all these things, like these are things that are going to bump you up in like search engine optimization or like the algorithms that these things use. So these people, they want to write a caption that takes you 4 minutes to read. So you spend 4 minutes on their page, and they want it to be something that is contentious so that you're going to have an opinion on it. And you're probably going to share that opinion either with them or with someone that you talk to this shit about. And that's all feeding into this algorithm of them winning the game. The reason they're winning the game is because people are talking about it and they understand that. And that's going to make them money because the whole reason they put this post together, that's, some of this stuff is so fucking dumb. Like doing 90-degree Bosu ball slant board holds reverse banded with a chain around your neck, of literally just moving the handles on a safety squat bar. Like, what the fuck? And I'm happy to talk about it in this means because it's not giving him any clout. No one go to anyone's page after this podcast. Don't give them any clout. But that's it. It's like there's this thing that people are going to talk about and they're ultimately going to make money because they understand the game. And there's a lot of people out there that don't even know there's a game being played. And that's the consumer. Right. And it's probably no one that's listening to this. Maybe it is someone that's listening to this. I don't know. But there's this whole market of consumers out there that don't understand that this is a game. And these people are playing this game and they're taking it seriously. And I think that's where there's that lack of respect. Right. There's a disconnect between what this person's putting out and actual credible information. And they're preying on people that don't understand that disconnect. And that's one of the portions of this game that I'm unwilling to give into. Right? If I'm going to put something out there, I may put out something that's contentious, but I'm going to put it out there because I believe in it. And if you disagree, you're wrong because I'm right.
I think a big distinction is that, especially when the funnel gets larger, or the necessity for the funnel gets larger and larger, they aren't necessarily preying on the people that are going to indulge in the product. They are, but to, I would argue, a lesser extent. It's all designed. And this is not me speaking of the least controversial names to drop I could have anticipated coming out of you, possibly. Like those two, like if they're going to be in the conversation, like those are two, right? Of all the people that I thought you were going to call out.
Wait, I want you to drop one name before that. It could be like the last second of the podcast so that like you have to listen to the whole thing to get there. But I want you to drop one name.
That's how we'll leverage this entire conversation for the algorithms. If we get 10,000 shares. We'll definitely start name dropping people.
Fuck yeah.
But basically, once you get to a certain point where the funnel needs to be so large to see more net forward progress on your profits, on your revenue in general, anything like that, the people that are actually going to make the purchase, they're definitely being potentially targeted as or taken advantage of for sure. But it really depends on what they need to see any sort of return on investment for the purchase. If they are so detrained or so new, you can literally get people to do fucking anything, and that's going to give them some ROI that they can have some moral high ground about providing. However, the way that they're going to go about that, everything you described with search engine optimization, time on site or time on thing, likes, views, discussion, all the algorithmic things that people are getting sort of drawn towards, those are the people that are quote unquote smart. You're the people that are getting directly targeted. You're not getting targeted necessarily for the product itself. You're being leveraged for the actual people that will then see it because of your amplification.
Yes.
That's extremely obvious, or hopefully it is. But if you're getting mad at something on the internet, don't engage.
Yes.
That's how you take your power back, is to not engage, because the express purpose of anything that's going to be incredibly inflammatory, controversial, anything that's going to be fucking stupid when you see it just outright, you're not the direct target of trying to impress. You're not the person that they're trying to impress, rather, with that content to make a purchase after the fact. You're the person they're trying to leverage to improve their algorithmic metrics. Mm-hmm. When you get mad and comment, when you link to your story being like, this is the dumbest shit I've ever seen, I can't believe this exists, it's not even necessarily your audience that then sees it that they can prey upon and make purchases or get purchases out of. It's the fact that the system is then going to amplify them to the Discover page or to random people as an ad. That's how that works. Yes. Take your power back and just don't engage. It's wonderful. We were just talking about this before the podcast launched. I have dissociated from the industry for like the last several weeks, and I've never been happier. It's Amazing. The greatest thing in the world. I didn't miss anything. I know a ton. I know enough to service my clientele. Mm-hmm. Granted, social media is not a place to go to learn. I feel like I say that every single podcast.
You do.
Even looking directly into the camera, because we're not supposed to do that. Even our content is not enough to actually learn something of value. It's a good way to start the conversation and then engage in something to follow up to really learn it. Even our content. Never pursue social media as a means to like get some definitive golden egg of information. It's all going to be tips, tricks, and if you say hacks, I hate you.
That's me.
Biohacks. Yeah, it's true. But then you mic drop and leave the room, so that makes it legit.
Yeah.
It's all designed, if you're truly trying to get something out of it, for you to then go and actually pursue that information, test it out, troubleshoot it on your own, engage with that person in a meaningful discourse to try to figure out or learn more, take the course, whatever it's going to be. Watch the hour-long YouTube video if they put it out. Go team.
Yeah.
But anything that's going to be the 90 degrees, concentric only on a slant board, on a Bosu ball, hitting the guy in the head from the side with another Bosu ball or whatever.
I love how we both know the content, even though we don't follow this person.
Well, but it's because it's effective, right? And I just said I haven't followed anybody, or rather I haven't looked at any of the content for weeks now, legitimately, yet it's still somehow on the people that I do follow. It has somehow emerged either on my Discover page or through content that they're going to post.
Yes.
So they're, as you said, are they trying to, at some stage, when does that deviation occur? Where they're delivering a product and trying to do it with as much professionalism in earnest as they possibly can, to when does it become, now I have to start playing the game? Because my social media content, it's half and half. It's still a strong contingent of things that I just enjoy, things that I want to put out there that are generally a accurate depiction of my skills, my services, and my personality, because it's a measurement, it's a method of me engaging with potential future clientele or just staying engaged with my current clientele as well.
Yeah.
But frequency of posts, type of posts, it being a reel versus a photo versus a story, these are all things that sort of go on in the background, because you get hamstrung by the fact that if you don't do certain things, your reach will completely tank to absolute zero. Even the people that are following you, I am following Jordan Junta because I'm his best friend and I want to see Bo and I want to see his coffee and his other, I mean, I guess he Olympic lifts or some bullshit, but like, I want to see him. That. But if you start posting like a normal person, it'll never be found, because there's no engagement on your stories. There's no comments, there's no likes, there's no shares, there's no nothing. So at a certain point, you start to play the game, if nothing else, through this weird bastardization of social media. It's no longer social media. It's all marketing. It's all commercials. You start playing the game just to sort of doggy paddle, stay above the surface. So you can even be seen by people you're friends with.
Yeah.
So at a certain point in time, full circle, if you're getting mad at something, you're the product.
Yeah, that's so true. And you made 2 points in there that I really want to pull out and expand on. One is that you said you make content to engage with your current clientele. And I fucking love that. I think that's such a good gauge of if your content is valuable or not. And that's exactly what I do too, is that I take scenarios that I'm in and I pull information from, okay, I've had this conversation a lot lately. I'm going to turn that into an Instagram post, or I want that to be something that people can readily access so that I can either reference them to it, or I'm sure we both have clients that are very well versed in this space, right? They're very well learned, they're very knowledgeable. I want to make content that is going to get them to continue to respect me and look up to me in the way that they do, right? And I'll admit, I do a lot of clickbaity shit, like in terms of like the reels that Marshall makes for me and like captions and stuff like that. I'll try and make it interesting, but I will never sacrifice the value that I provide in the content for clicks or views or anything like that. So I think that's a really good gauge. Is this a conversation that you would be proud about having with a current client of yours? If the answer is yes, then that's amazing. That's great content, and you should definitely continue to produce that. If one of your clients saw that and they came to you and asked you a question, you'd be kind of like a little bit hesitant about it, or like you wouldn't be proud to have that conversation, then maybe just hit delete and move on with your life. The other thing that you mentioned is that, and you mention all the time, Instagram, social media is not the place to get education. And I think that's a really good point, because that can actually play into the mindset around the stuff that you're putting out. And this is kind of turning into like a how to provide value on the internet podcast, but which is fine. I think this is something that our listeners need to hear, and I think it's something that a conversation that should be had. But when people are producing content, I think there's this mindset, this scarcity mindset around it, that if I share this, then people will know everything I know, right? Which is not the case at all. It's never going to be a platform where you can fully contextualize. You can't have the back and forth conversations that are necessary to really convey this information. And I'll tell you, like, a lot of the content that we as a company put out for free is a lot of the same content you'll get in our courses. But the reasoning, it's not because we think that, oh, if people consume all of our podcasts and our Instagram content and our newsletters and our emerging idea series, then we're not going to be able to provide more value to them. And that's absolutely not true. Is you're going to hear sound bites and you're going to have these ideas in your head, but you're not really going to know where they fit in the overall general landscape of training, the thought process around client management, exercise implementation, organization, progression, regression, anything like that. Is that you're just getting this one data point that just floats around, and you don't really know where that dot connects with the rest of the dots. And that's the service that we offer, as whether it's a coach, whether it's through Prescript as education. It's that we're here to connect those dots for you in a very well thought out, thorough way that's been vetted time after time, and it's been improved in through our career as a coach, a trainer, and educator. And it's still improving, and you as a client will always be part of that process, but you're getting a better product than the person before you and the person before that. And the person after you is going to get a better product, but if you're still around, you're getting that same product. So I think the mindset around putting content out there, it can't be that scarcity mindset, is that share your knowledge. That's where people get to know you. And a point you made earlier too is like having a personality with it, is that that's how you're going to find the highest quality leads or the most qualified clients, is because you want people that are going to resonate with your message, right? If I feel very strongly about something, that could completely turn off 50% of people. But the 50% that are remaining are really engaged now. They're like, yeah, I fuck with this guy because he said this thing that I really feel passionate about. And he feels the same way. So I'm going to continue to follow this guy and interact with him and maybe become a client, maybe not, whatever. But it's a very positive feedback loop. It's a good relationship to have. Whether that, and a lot of these, I have friends because of the stuff that we do on the internet that I've never met, and maybe I never will meet, which is like a little bit of a sad thought, but it's awesome. There's a lot of people that bring a positive influence or impact into my life and my career because of that, because of just having the personality and saying things that might be contentious, but I feel strongly about. And I think people they tread lightly around that sort of stuff, as they want to put out a message that's very agreeable and very positive. And there's people I can think of that might actually listen to this podcast that do that, and they do well with it, which is cool. Like I'm all about spreading positivity, and I don't even follow people. Like I will unfollow you the second that you put something out on the internet that's like that I don't respect, I guess is a good way to say it. If I don't respect the way that you're approaching it, like I'm not going to see your shit anymore, and I'm not going to feed into that. Like I'm not going to share your stuff. I'm not going to say anything about it. I'm just, I don't support this message, and I don't want negative thoughts in my head when I see you come up on my feed. So you're not going to be on my feed. And I don't feel any way about it. Like you do you. I understand that people are playing the game in the way that they're going to play it. But if I don't respect it, then it's not going to enter my stream of consciousness.
Yeah, for the most part, it's very, very rapidly started to pare down to only people that improve my mood even, but put something of value out there that I respect. And that means the list is either, and that's not to say that every single human that I follow in every context is only that. There's a ton of people that I do respect that I just don't follow, also because I get super saturated by the same content, which is basically my entire life. When your career is this, you get saturated by it so hard that even the people that are putting out the best quality stuff, it's like, yeah, I've heard this a million times, or I've put this out myself. Like, I don't need to necessarily see this over and over and over. I kind of want to have my own thing going on too. Mm-hmm. But very rapidly, the curation of your own existence in social media is the other prong of how you take back control. You don't post or you don't interact with things that make you mad. You completely delete them from existence, starting with your own brain, and then you don't have them actually get propagated by your own means of rage bait and rage click bullshit. But you can also curate your existence and be like, oh, this person that I used to follow all the time for these sound bites or these tidbits of information, they actually seem kind of sketchy. They're entering that realm of everyone is just a number. And in order to leverage this number of my social media following, I have to do shadier and shadier bullshit that will capture them for a very short period of time. Mm-hmm. I'll get revenue off of them, and then I'll never hear or see them again because they're just a number, as opposed to, who has the smallest followings and the least impact in the industry, for better or for worse? One-to-one coaches. Because it's the same thing as a good manager, a good politician, if they exist. You know what you never hear anything from? You never know a good job is being done because no one says anything about the good job being done. It just happens. Then people are very satisfied and get on with the rest of their life. It's the people that either put out a shit product or have a garbage return on investment. They're fleecing people that get all of that negative press, even, or any press whatsoever, that blow up. And then the world's a big place. We'll move on. Someone that hasn't seen it or hasn't been exposed to it, they'll be the next person that gets trapped in that net of bullshit. But the people that are putting out the best of things are usually people with smaller followings, or if they are with a larger following, they have a similar product that it's going to be one to many or one to whatever, but they're a lot quieter. Yeah. There's not a whole lot of crazy shit to say when you're trying to stay like above board. It's always the opposite of that. So all of your friends in the industry that have like 5,000, 10,000 followers, they're posting like meaningful content. Usually what it's going to come down to is they're probably a one-to-one trainer. And a lot of their content is just, and this is relevant to me, honestly, because the fact that I have a little one entering my home in probably about 3 weeks, everything is just modeling the behaviors you want them to have. That's most of being a good human and influencing the people that you care about, is just modeling the behaviors you want them to have. So me becoming a father, I'm going to have a sponge in this house for like the next 18 to however many fucking years they live here with me, and everything I do will be subconsciously absorbed and be something that they're going to either consciously or unconsciously mimic at some stage. Same with your clients. The things that you post, the way that you speak, the amount of outrage that you put out there, the way you interact with your peers. This brings all the way back to professionalism and the way you carry yourself. Those are all subconscious behaviors that will be modeled by your potential clients. You attract what you put out, as cliche as that may sound. I've seen a tremendous amount of people wring their hands and get super confused about all the haters or all the nonsense they had to put out or put up with in the online space. And I'm like, well, what are you putting out there?
Yeah.
Because cool people don't tend to shit on people at random. So if that's what you're getting, how are you actually attracting those people?
That's the question right there. Something I've noticed, and this has been in both of my businesses, is that the best way to gain a new client that is engaged and bought in is through referral, not necessarily through advertising or any of this. And there is benefit to all this stuff in its own rights, but people that have a smaller business, and it's not like this one-to-many, like I'm going to sell a $9.99 program and hope I can get 100,000 people on it. The idea is that if you do a good job and you provide a good service, then people who benefit from that will recognize that and they'll refer people that they care about to you because they know that you can make a difference. And that's with my chiropractic practice. I've been here. I just renewed my license for the 8th year. I've been in the same location, 8 years. I've practiced. My hours have definitely gone down over the past probably 3 or so years. I'm not practicing as much as I did at one point, but I've never done any sort of advertising for my business outside of I coach at a gym. I am someone on the internet and I do a good job. The majority of the clients that I have right now, currently, are referrals from people that I've helped in the past. And that's something, it's definitely the snowball effect, is that if you're new to this, you're going to have those early adopters and people that probably care about you as a human and want to see you do well. So they want to support your business. And the best thing that you can do is invest in them and get results with them. Because if you get results in them, then they have their entire network of people that they interact with, whether that's at work, whether that's their family, whether that's their friends. I'm in the gym space, so I work with a lot of trainers and a lot of coaches and gym owners, and they have influence over an entire gym's worth of people or their entire clientele. And if you can make it something where it's synergistic between you're going to benefit and so is the person that's referring that person to you, is that, hey, I have a good referral, and maybe that just builds trust within their relationship, then that's going to be the best way to get clients that are bought in on what you're doing. And that's something that I found to be undefeated. That's held true, and it's only become stronger the more people I've helped. Is that I've gotten to the point where it's like I'm not practicing that much, not as much as I used to, and I only take people that are either that are personal. I don't only take people. That's not true. But the clients that I have found to have the best progress with are people that are referrals, not people that just find me randomly and say, "Oh, I need a chiropractor." It's people that have some sort of personal connection to that. And then another point that I wanted to make is that, and this again goes back to everyone's business. Have you ever watched Shark Tank?
I've done the Canadian version, yes.
Okay, what is it called?
I think Canadian one is Dragon's Den.
Dragon's Den. I've heard of that one too. Okay, so it's basically like a panel of investors who someone comes up with an idea and they pitch the idea, trying to get usually at least hundreds of thousands or maybe millions of dollars of investment into this company. And usually the question here in the States that Mark Cuban will ask is either it's what differentiates you? What makes you different from the next person? And there's usually there's two answers, is two valid answers in my mind. You're either doing the service that you're doing better than everyone else, which is rare. That's very rare. Especially something like we're doing. There's a lot of people that do it really well. And that, again, it's not to have that scarcity mindset. It's just because there's a lot of people doing it well doesn't mean there's not going to be a clientele available for you, because you have a personality and you have a message that resonates with them. Is that so? Always do what you're doing really well. That never goes away. And the second one, this is the one that I think people prey on in this industry in a disingenuous way, is can you solve a problem that's not being solved, right? And I don't think there's many problems that haven't been solved in the personal training, the physical fitness, the rehab space, right? These problems have been solved. There's not many new things that are going to have a large impact to push this industry in a new direction, right? I think one of those things is exactly what we're talking about, is online training. I think that solved the problem of physical location, is that you can have clients from all over the world and you can help them. And that's huge. That's amazing. There's a lot of people that we work with that are benefiting off that. And that's amazing. But in terms of, you don't have the secret. No one has the secret, right? The secret is getting results in an efficient and effective way. If you can do that, and you can do that in a recreatable way, then you're solving the problem. The problem is solved. It's not going to be an ice bath. It's not going to be a supplement that they're not taking. It's doing the things that, a lot of times it's subtraction. It's taking away the things that are interfering with people's progress, right? And I won't get too much into that because we have hundreds, literally, of podcasts at this point that talk about that. But that's the predatory thing, is like these people that do the dumb shit on the internet, that just to get you talking, that you are the product because you're perpetuating this information, whether you know it or not, whether you agree with it or not. They're the ones that are claiming to solve a problem that doesn't exist, or they have a better solution to a problem that already has a really good answer. And that's the part that I don't respect.
Yeah, that's something that I noticed very acutely in the last several weeks as well. Is I got the same as everybody. When you do start to see metrics improve, especially in a social media sense, the dopamine hits are real for everybody. No one is going to really escape that, but it's where you catch yourself and when you're able to realize if it's benefiting you or not.
Right.
My social media following is not enormous, but most, if not all of them, are a personal relationship that I have at some point, which makes it an extremely powerful following for my particular business.
Mm-hmm.
And to sort of highlight that, everybody should do this. Specifically, if you're in a one-to-one or remote one-to-one style of business, is do an audit on where your entire clientele base, but even your last 5 to 10 clients, where did they come from? And oftentimes you'll find exactly what you were saying. They're going to be referrals, or they're going to be found through some means that's a close relationship that you have forged with that person over some period of time, maybe even exclusive of you being a trainer in their world, like being the trainer that happens to be in their bubble.
Mm-hmm.
I noticed that immediately. And I didn't notice that immediately, but I acted on it once I noticed that immediately. That I started to get a little bit too into, okay, how do I keep playing the game and improving my metrics for what meager sense that I had been, until I started noticing like there's no ROI on this. And I think to double down on that, the reason why every single time you and I sit down for a podcast, aside from when we were talking about the hypertrophy course, which was great because it was actual content that was relevant and new at the time.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, what do you want to talk about? I feel like fitness has been all talked out. I feel like social media at this stage also has clearly been all talked out. So this is kind of like a professionalism, social media, mixed bag conversation.
Mm-hmm.
But that's where good people often struggle, is that what is there new to talk about, unless you're just articulating it with your personality to your particular audience that, given their experience level, may not have heard it before. To generate daily content, I feel is very disingenuous to act like anything, again, riveting or new or earth shattering has been invented or come across in the last several decades.
Mm-hmm.
Like even the hip thrust, which I'll shout out, is a new quote unquote invention in the last several decades. And it has changed the way people train dramatically to a benefit. I'll even say that. I feel like there is a benefit there, the way that you program it, the way you use it for certain individuals. When you go all the way down to brass tacks, okay, we're going to load hip extension. Got it. Nailed it. I'm going to contract my glutes against a resistance. Sick. It's
Problem
still
solved.
Not necessarily a new thing, but it's okay. The problem that's being solved. It's going to be probably easier for some people to conceptualize because it helps take away some quad drive, or if they are really awful at it, you can even lower it to a glute bridge and make it even easier. It's going to more directly stimulate sensation for the glutes, which is really encouraging for a lot of people. And it's a shortened position exercise, which generally is easier to recover from, meaning that in the totality of their program, it's not going to knock them, pun kind of intended, on their ass for a long period of time. Sick. We have a new option. But it didn't reinvent the wheel of a tissue grows or gets stronger by loading the thing that it does. So it's very rare that you find, and it's very common in the literature these days, that like, what? Okay, so you can be pissed or think that literature is all bought or science is fake because of predatory journals or whatever bullshit bias you think people are going to have. However, if you're starting to continuously cite publications that haven't even gone through peer review yet, that contribute next to nothing to the actual forward progress of the action items that you would present, let's just stop. Let's everybody cancel science from all of your content, because either you don't understand it, you don't know how to articulate it or implement it, and it's just something you're adding in there to try to stand out and solve a new problem that never existed to begin with. Because again, even when you loop in literature, it's so slow progressing by design that you're effectively just trying to reach to create new content as opposed to solve an issue. This goes back to the people that do that kind of shit the least, the ones that are actually working, probably developed a close one-to-one personal relationship with their roster, modeled the behaviors of a successful trainee by being one themselves in their social media presentation, said every once in a while, I offer services, here are my credentials, I'm not unqualified, but also it's not the most meaningful thing in the world because low barrier to entry, so whatever, buy my services if you want. Nailed it. Everything else is probably going to be a one-to-many, where they're trying to, again, get someone that is unassuming, that doesn't know any better, that thinks that the one small trick that personal trainers hate, or whatever the hell the phrase used to be, the ice bath of yesteryear.
Yeah.
That's the reason why I haven't made my progress. Here's my $10 for a couple months. It didn't work. Son of a bitch. I guess it's just my genetics. I'm never going to think it was that one guy on the internet, and then they're going to move on and never see any results. Whereas the one-to-oneers that really put in the effort to model those behaviors, make a connection, they don't get nearly probably as much like clout on the internet, because that's not how internet clout works.
Right. Yeah. I really thought you were going to name drop in there. When you said cancel, I thought you were going to cancel someone. But I guess we'll have to sit on the edge of our chairs and wait until either Bugera's computer dies over there or he says someone's name. You make a really good point, though. And I think one of the things we can pull from that and actually have something actionable out of is that you made the point that the higher volume people produce, the lower quality it becomes, right? You can't have high volume, high intensity training all the time, right? This needs to come in waves. And I've definitely realized this with like content that I put out. I put dumb, meaningful shit or dumb shit that I still agree with, like go walk your dog. And then I put like well thought out, like more scripted, like actionable things that are going to make changes in the way that people train, because I think that's valuable. But I think a good point to be made is people feel like they always have to be innovating, right? Is that you can put out the same content over and over again, because not everyone's going to see it all the time. It's not going to, I think something that's very true, and just like in life, is that messages aren't going to resonate with people when they're not ready to hear them, right? And that's just like a hard-earned life fact for me, is if you're not ready for the information, then it's not going to mean anything for you. And maybe you agree with it and you understand it, but until it resonates with you, until you're at a place where that is meaningful and that message means something to you, then it's just not going to, and there's not going to be anything actionable that you take away from it. So if you have high quality content, continue to put it out there, even if it's not very different, if it's the same stuff. Is that this stuff doesn't change, like anatomy, physiology, biomechanics, it doesn't change. Resistant training, maybe we deepen our understanding and we refine our message or our verbiage around it over time. And that in itself is a good enough reason to put out the same content, but in a more informed way throughout your career. It doesn't have to be different. Say the same things better, and you're going to be able to still have a positive message that you and your in-person interacting clientele will respect, but you're going to get better at saying it over time. Like, we're in the 400s of podcast episodes at this point. I can't even count how many times we've said the same shit over and over. I've probably had the same conversation in a less effective way in the past. So, and it might not resonate with someone until you get your shit together, until you really refine your understanding around the message that you're trying to convey. And that's okay. This is all practice. We just say a bunch of dumb shit, then we eventually die. So just say that shit better over time. Try and do good. Try and help people, but it doesn't have to be different. You don't have to reinvent the wheel. Just understand how that wheel works really well and different ways you can apply that wheel in different scenarios. And your something that's interesting, because like I do look at the metrics on social media and I try to play the game, is that a lot of people, it's always in flux, right? People have followers, and you'll get new followers and you'll lose followers. Like, people unfollow me all the time. No hard feelings. I unfollow people all the time. But that just means that you have an audience that may have not heard what you put out 6 months ago or a year ago. So it's okay to say the same message over and over again, especially if it's something that you believe in and you think it's helpful. Then keep fucking saying it. Keep yelling it. That's literally what this company is founded on, is saying the same shit louder and louder in a more concise way over time.
Yeah, there's a whole new social media platform for your social media platform, which at this stage I am spitefully resisting. But Threads, I said this to our community, but if you're going to use it, I think it's silly because it's just another way of shortening the conversation. And I think most people will misappropriate the medium with the message. They're going to try to get some crazy profound new information out to their audience using, I don't know if there's limited characters, but there's definitely limited attention span. So don't do that. Maybe use it for some quick bite-sized actionable tips, tricks. If you want to call them hacks, go for it. Make sure they're quality though. And use it as a conversation starter, or use it as something that's going to be of benefit. Try not to be a dick. Just do that more with social media. Try to develop relationships, do good by your current audience and your clients. And you'll probably see a lot of forward progress with your business, with a lot less heavy lifting on daily rat race content creation for people that are going to skip it anyways.
Yeah. I love it. And I think maybe something else that I just want to say is that if you're having the same conversation over and over again, maybe you should refine your message, right? Is if people are asking and people have questions and something you put out, people are disagreeing with, maybe you should refine it in a way where it's less clouded and you're getting across the message that you really want to say. And I think, yeah, like, fuck Threads. I'm not on there either. And I'm probably not going to be. I don't see a reason why I would be. But it leaves a lot of room for interpretation. And that's my goal, or my goal over time is I don't want any room for interpretation. I want it to be very factual, very concise. Is the thing that I said is the thing that I meant. If you disagree, let's have a conversation and we'll both lay out our hopefully well thought out points, not even an argument, but we'll have a conversation and come to an understanding. And even if we disagree, that's fine. I don't care if you disagree with me, but unless you can lay out well thought out points with the intention of changing my perspective, then why would I change my perspective? If you disagree just to disagree, or it's just like anecdotal, is like, no, I don't like this because I do it a different way. Okay, go fuck off, because I don't care.
Real quick before I drop, accept that not everybody is your audience, nor are they supposed to be your audience. You're supposed to connect with the people you were meant to connect with, not cast the largest net possible and capture a bunch of people that are just going to be a contentious bunch of follows that are going to, unless that's your move, unless you're at that stage where you're trying to just leverage people for the clickbait, the drama, and get your metrics up. You're not supposed to service every audience. You're not supposed to speak to every single person. You're supposed to speak to the people you were meant to connect with and make a meaningful change in their lives. I'm going to drop.
Okay.
E. Bugera on Instagram, Prescript Collective, Prescript Hypertrophy, words, I don't know, round it out.
Yeah, who's the unfollow? Just drop it real quick before your computer cuts out.
I'm losing connection, man. I can't hear you anymore. I don't know what's going on.
Yeah, this is the 2023 version of going through a tunnel. Call's going to drop. All right. We'll wrap it on that. I appreciate you being here, Bugera. To anyone listening, this is the last time Bugera will see the light of day for the next 18 years because he has a child on the way. So if you do see him after the release of this podcast, you should be very grateful and you should appreciate that time. And you should really egg him on to say some off-base shit because he's going to be sleep deprived.
That is your opportunity.
Yes. All right, man. I appreciate you. I love you, Bugera. Thanks for being here. Reach out to him. Maybe just don't reach out to Bugera. He's got more important shit to do than entertain this. Feel free to reach out to me if you guys want to have a productive conversation. And we'll catch you guys soon.